Hi, my name's Heather, and I'm a grateful believer who struggles with alcohol and codependency. I spent a big portion of my life carrying not only the weight of the world on my shoulders, but also the weight of my sins and my failures. Although my parents loved me, my mom was extremely critical, and my dad struggled with what I think may have been depression. His unhappiness led him to take his own life when I was 9 years old. His suicide became the family secret. We never talked about it and never went to grief counseling. After my dad's death, I spent most of my childhood overly anxious and always trying to measure up. Whether it was God's standards or my mom's standards, I failed miserably. God's standards were just too high, and my mom's were always comparing me to others who seemed to always be doing better than me. As a young adult, I discovered the solution to all my distress: alcohol. Alcohol seemed to quiet the subtle anguish that constantly hovered in my mind. It became my comfort, my escape, and eventually my addiction. Over the years, this addiction began to seep into every aspect of my life. Fast forward to one failed marriage and another one on the brink of divorce, I'd hit my bottom. I became a person that I despised. I also carried this heavy burden of guilt and shame of all the mistakes of my life. I was so certain in my heart that God was done with me and I was going to hell. My addiction eventually led me to a secular 12-step program. I started attending meetings, got a sponsor, and worked the steps. Although life was improving, I still carried this lingering burden of guilt and shame. My recovery soon became all about my works and my power. If I do this list of things, then I will earn God's forgiveness, and He will hopefully help me not drink. I still didn't quite get it. Clearly, this type of recovery was just not sustainable. I eventually got burnt out and ended up drinking again. Thankfully, this is not the end of my story. Through a series of fortunate events, God led me to Celebrate Recovery. It was there where Jesus became the power that relieved me from the bondage of my addiction and my shame. It was there that I learned the true meaning about God's grace, His power made perfect in my weaknesses. Since then, I've participated in multiple step studies where you work the 12 steps along with the 8 biblical principles. I was finally able to properly grieve my dad's suicide. I've learned how not to take on other people's feelings, but have my own feelings. My confidence increased significantly through the process of Celebrate Recovery. For many years, I was so anxious and uncomfortable in my skin. I learned to be a chameleon in any environment. I became who you wanted me to be, not because I was afraid you would find out who I really was. It was because I had no clue who I was. Now, I know that my identity is in Christ. And through Celebrate Recovery, I'm accepted just as I am, along with all my flaws and struggles. Thanks for letting me share.